must persuade me that the slightest hope of your teaching a child.
There isn't. I don't think Helen's worst handicap is deafness or blindness. I think it's your love. And pity. All of you are so sorry for her you've kept her like a pet. I'll have to live with her somewhere else. She has to be dependent on me.
For what?
Everything. It's the only way. The one who lets her have it should be her teacher, not anyone who loves her.
She runs from you to us.
Yes. That's the point. Has a name. W-A-T-E-R. Water.
Sooner or later, we all give up, don't we?
Maybe you all do. It's my idea of the original sin.
What is?
Giving up.
I'll tell you a little secret. Most of the movies on this list will probably never change, or come off of it in any way. And going into this video series, I had all of the films ready to go. They were films I had seen that I knew I was going to include in this list of 100 favorite movies in no particular order. What's the secret, you ask? Well, I had to add a film to this list that I recently saw, that I had never seen before. So I just had to make room for it, because it truly moved me like no other film has moved me before. Normally it'll take a while, maybe even a few years, before I decide if a film is worthy to be on this list. But every now and then, I'll see a film like this one, and there is no question in my mind that it belongs here. And that was The Miracle Worker from 1962, starring Anne Bancroft as Annie Sullivan, and the young Patty Duke as the deaf and blind Helen Keller. I had always heard of Helen Keller and her life, and had read some smaller books on her when I was growing up, but I had never seen any of the stage or film adaptations of her life until now. And let me tell you, I am so glad I did. The story is a remarkable one, even more so since it is based on real life and real people. I was really enjoying the film, and then something happened about midway through that just elevated the entire movie for me. There is a nearly 8-minute long sequence where Miss Sullivan is trying to teach Helen manners, specifically how to eat and behave in the dining room. Throughout its entirety is a one-on-one struggle and essentially fight between these two women, one trying to teach the other at all costs, and the other not wanting anything to do with that at all. It felt like I didn't breathe throughout the entire scene by the time it ended, and when it was over, I just had to pause the film. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed, some of the most powerful acting I had ever seen in my life. Yes, my life. In fact, I will go so far as to say that I have never seen any duo performance, or any performance period, quite like this one in any film thus far. Nothing comes close. With essentially no dialogue, the scene has tantrums, constant back and forth actions, slapping, stomping, hitting, shoving, pulling, spitting, but my eyes were glued to the screen the whole time. It's not really a pleasant scene to watch by any stretch of the imagination. However, it simultaneously is something you just cannot look away from. I was so blown away, and I have never seen anything like it. I was emotionally and physically drained, but also strangely enlightened. For that scene alone, the seemingly indomitable persistence of both of these characters at odds certainly earned both Anne Bancroft and Patty Duke their respective Academy Award nominations and wins for that year. But of course, in the whole film, the cast brought their A-game. The film was emotionally resonant and engaging the rest of its runtime as well. A thought-provoking look at the beginning partnership, if you will, of Miss Keller and Miss Sullivan. Its emotional climax is worth standing up and cheering for, if you weren't already wiping away your tears. I walked away so glad I had watched this film, and felt incredibly inspired. I still do. If you haven't seen The Miracle Worker yet, I insist you stop this video right now and go watch it. It's interesting timing of this movie, because I was recently talking to my friend from itskidpomona, who you can find on YouTube, my guest on the Mrs. Doubtfire video, and we were discussing the absolutely most moving acting performances, the ones that transcended all others. And it was interesting for me, at least, because I really couldn't think of a lot of examples. Sure, I could think of a lot of examples of great acting. Who can't? But as far as the ones that I thought stood above all the others, it was hard for me to think of many examples. I thought of a couple, but if we were to have that conversation again, this movie would definitely spring to mind, and it always will. When the movie was released, Time magazine called it quite possibly the most moving double performance ever recorded on film. I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. This movie touched my heart and mind, and I needed to see it. I just didn't know it. And I feel as if this film is often buried, overlooked, and not discussed nearly enough. I don't throw this phrase around lightly, even though I do love saying it, but The Miracle Worker is cinematic gold, and it absolutely deserves the score that I had no hesitation in awarding. Yes, there are some movies I like better, that will receive or have received lower scores, but when I score, I don't really compare a film with another unless it is a sequel in a series or a remake of some kind. I try to look at the film as a whole and see if the movie accomplished what it set out to achieve by itself. And this one did that, certainly, in flying colors. So I had to give it a perfect score. You can imagine now why this film has entered into the list of my 100 favorite movies.